Waltteri, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
How was that pronunciation? It wasn't the best, but it was.
It wasn't too bad.
I gave him.
There's so many different ways to pronounce it in English that you're all right.
I gave him my best. Listen, I always try to give him my best. I like your accent. Do it again. Let's not do that, Dimo. Thank you for the vote of confidence, though. But Waltteri, good to have you here, man. We've tried to do this a couple of times before, and things didn't really line up. But we're finally here. I'm really excited to have a conversation.
Yeah, me too. It's a pleasure to be here. So looking forward.
Thank you. And on this show, we have party lights because Fawaz just subscribed. Thank you for 10 months, Fawaz. We say I gave you an intro before the intro. I kind of botch them sometimes, like the name, for example. But in your own words, could you introduce yourself to the tribes that might not know you?
Well, I guess most people know me for being the drummer of Paradise Lost since 2015, I think. And but besides that, I've been playing with quite a few other bands and projects over the years, such as Bloodbath and Val on Fire, Abhorrence. Did some live session fillings for Fintroll and Moon Sorrow and Amorphis, and to name a few.
Exactly. Now, this is what I wanted to dive into, because you're naming these guys. Each and every single one of them is a heavy hitter. But I want to start from the very beginning. I want to start from the very beginning because I did a little digging and I found out that you're currently in a band that even back you started listening to when you were 5 years old. Even your mother was a fan of the band at the time.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Paradise Lost was one of the first bands that I ever got into as a very little kid. I was probably around 5 or 6 when I first heard Draconian Times, and was a fan ever since that.
So was it a musical household you grew up in? Was there always music playing around you? How did you fall in love with music the first time? Because at 5 years old, that must mean that there was music playing all the time, I would assume.
Yeah. I mean, my mom was listening to metal all the time, and my stepdad he had a drum kit, so that's how I got into drums in the first place. And but yeah, I can't honestly even remember how I got into music or what made me to get interested in playing drums. It's just been there since the very beginning, and metal music is always been there for me. So can't really tell that what made me to.
I can imagine if you started, the love for it at least at 5, it's your entire life basically. There's nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. And even younger. I mean, bands like Children of Bodom and Sentenced. What else? Him. Some other Finnish metal bands. I was listening already like at 3 or 4 years old. So
yeah,
feels pretty crazy when you think about it now. Because I mean, I can't remember much else from that time, but I just remember that I was already listening to those bands since a very early age.
I think that's one of the things that is very unique in this conversation, because we've had a lot of people on the show. We've talked to a bunch of different people from bands all around the world, and there's always an instigating and then I picked up the Maiden album, and then I saw the first Slayer cover, but it just constantly been kind of a part of your life. Do you remember when you were like, fuck, I think I'm a drummer? Or was the drum kit there and it just happened?
I can't remember the exact moment, but I think I started with pots and pans and hitting some chairs with pencils and stuff like that. So it must have been in my blood somehow. And then, like I said, my stepdad happened to have a drum kit. And when I for the first time when I got behind the kit, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And yeah, ever since that, I've been playing drums, and that's been the main thing in my life, really.
Did you experiment, like back in the day, especially when you were very young? Did you like think of music as something that you wanted to maybe, you know, pursue? Was it like, should I try guitar? Should I try bass? Should I try anything else? Or was it just, listen, there's a drum kit. I like heavy ass music. I'm just gonna fucking bang on this drum until I get good.
Yeah, the drums were always the main thing, but I played a little bit of guitar also when I was like on the 4th or 5th grade, maybe. And then for some reason I left it for years until a couple of years ago I picked up a guitar again and started playing some riffs just for fun, you know.
Yeah.
But with guitar I never had like any real sort of dreams or goals. I just did it for fun.
So what was the transition from I listen to, you know, my parents, my mom, stepdad listened to a bunch of cool stuff. I started getting into it. There's a drum kit to I'm gonna like chase this. This is what I'm gonna start doing now. Do you remember that transition or what it was like growing up, you know, in that kind of environment, wanting to be a drummer?
I don't know. It was to me, it was always like a very, very clear thing that this is what I want to do. And maybe back then I didn't think about like maybe someday I'm gonna be a professional drummer or whatever. It was just for the pure passion, really. And yeah, I just always found it extremely fascinating and fun thing to do.
Yeah, you know, you have that in common with. We spoke to Kevin Foley previously of Benighted, and he's also all over the world. And he said the same thing. He's like, I didn't even realize what was happening until I was already touring. Like, I just didn't think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of people we've spoken to, Mr. Mark Hunter from Chimera is in the chat. The only reason I am here is to let everyone know that sharks have two claspers. Claspers are similar to male genitalia. So in essence, sharks have two penises. Hope you have a good stream and day. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Hunter. Mr. Mark Hunter in the chat. Waltteri, sorry for that segue, but one of the greats is in the chat right now talking about shark penises. Shout out to Mark Hunter. If you guys don't know, he streams on Twitch and has an amazing stream, so you guys should go follow. But Waltteri, I want to ask. I always ask this question. Everybody, no exceptions, because it's either the best answer in the world or the worst answer in the world. What was your first band name?
Oh, first band name. It must have been called. This is really shit, but it was called Nordic Eclipse.
Okay.
At the time, we thought it was the coolest name ever. Like,
Nordic Eclipse.
Really atmospheric and, you know, emotional. But we were like, I don't know, 12 or 13 at the time. So,
do you remember anything about that time? Like the look? Did you guys start like printing band logos or flyers? Because it's been a thread when we talk about this that a lot of the people that didn't realize they would end up, you know, making music full time, they started in their first bands. They already had T-shirts. They had 2 demos and fucking T-shirts printed already. Did you guys have any of that kind of trajectory, or was it just in the jam room all day?
We never got that far, to be honest. We were just playing some cover songs at a rehearsal room, and I don't think we ever made any original songs. And yeah, I can't remember. We probably didn't have even a logo, or never mind T-shirts. So it was just,
All right. Well, let's see what you guys think. Yay or nay? Yay or nay on as a first band name? What do you guys think of that? Let us know in the chat.
Funny, because no one ever asked me that before, and I didn't even think about it until now. That was like probably 15 years ago.
Yeah, well, I always love that question because it's one of two. It's got to be an extreme. There's no like average first band name. It's always like the last one we heard was like headphones at funerals, or like as
something extreme.
Yeah, exactly. Or something as clean and as good as Slayer. Like it's there's no in between. It's either that or this, and it's just one of my favorite questions to ask. But yeah. So how you started playing drums, started playing in the local scene, all that kind of stuff. What was the motivation behind that? What was the trajectory for it going forward? When did the switch happen? Because like I was telling you, there's a lot of people that say, as soon as this happened, I started, pushing harder for it. But you didn't necessarily have that kind of switch. It was just in your environment. When did you go, you know what, I'm going to pursue this professionally?
I guess it was around the time when I got my very own drum kit. I was 12, I think, when that happened. And ever since that, when I had the drum kit in my room, actually, I probably played around 5-6 hours every day.
Wow.
It was around then when I really started thinking about like, I'm gonna be like a professional musician, and that's what I'm aiming for in my life, and I'm not gonna have a plan B or anything. And I think that was the moment where it slowly began to become a thing.
Yeah, face first into the concrete. That's what we say on this channel. Is we take a dive face first into the concrete, and we learn the lessons along the way. Basically, it's our leap of faith. You just go, you know what? I'm not doing anything else but this until it works. There's no option if I don't have a plan B.
Yeah, that's very true.
So let's talk a little bit about because I've done some research, like I said, and you've basically joined or played with all of your favorite bands. Every band you've ever said was your favorite. I do some research, and he joined them on stage this one time, or now he's sessioning for them, or now he's touring with this other band, and all of them you've basically said it's bands you grew up listening to. And one of the reasons it's actually easier for you to do a 24-hour jump on board a tour is because you're such a fan of these bands. You know most of the music already. So
exactly. That's what I always said about those bands that I mentioned before in this chat. I was already a fan of all of them, so it was so much easier to learn all their stuff, and the rehearsing process was so much more smooth when you already were familiar with the stuff. So
yeah, there was a particular show where we talked about Amorphous were hitting you up. It wasn't even a 24-hour window of you to learn their set. Basically a train ride away, and you were at a festival already.
Yeah, it was a funny thing. I was actually visiting my parents up north in Finland around that time, and I got a call from the Amorphous management around 5 or 6 p.m. Saying that we have a situation, that could you help us out? And I just said yes immediately, like without even thinking about it. The only thing that I was thinking about is like how I'm gonna get to Helsinki in time to make it to the flight in the morning. And there was luckily one train from Oulu leaving around 10 p.m. or something to Helsinki, and my brother drove me up to Oulu, and I just jumped into the train and then started learning the songs on the train. And then it was morning already, and went straight to the airport no sleep at all. And then jumped on the flight and listened to the songs a few more times. And luckily, I had like maybe 1 or 2 hour kip at the hotel before the show. But then the show was already like 5 p.m. 4 or 5 p.m. So it was to be honest, it was less than 24 hours, I think.
Yeah, plus travel and everything else that goes into that. I mean, it's not necessarily like you sitting in a jam room practicing for that amount of time and then on stage. It's just you're in the train taking notes, like headphones in. It's not your average wind up time for a show.
Yeah, it was a fucking crazy situation. Like, especially afterwards when I was thinking about it, like, wow, did that really happen? But it was when the gigs actually went well, it was such a relief afterwards. Like, I was so proud of myself that I could actually pull it off. Because I mean, of course, there was so many things to go wrong, but luckily they didn't. So
yeah, absolutely. This is something that happens in the music world globally, where when someone like kind of proves they're that reliable, it opens more doors, and it just starts spiraling after that. Where you know, like you in your career, a bunch of bands have called you and asked you for these last minute things because it started rolling. People can depend on you. But let's talk about pre-Paradise Lost, just before everything happened. I always fuck up this pronunciation, but Valenfire,
yeah,
as well.
That's correct.
That was the band. You how did that happen? Pre everything that kind of opened up.
Well, Valenfire is how everything sort of started for me. Because Greg from Paradise Lost, Valenfire was his side project. And it was 2014 summer when they announced on Facebook that they would need a new live drummer because Adrian Alanson, who was playing with them back then, he had some schedule clashes with At the Gates and The Haunted and the hundreds of other bands he's playing with. So they just announced that we're looking for a new live drummer and we would need some videos and stuff like that. And everybody who's interested should email us. And immediately when I saw the ad, I thought like, oh, this has got to be my gig. Like I have to get, because like I said, I already loved Valenfire. It was a great band, and it was exactly the stuff that I wanted to play, like really old school death metal.
Yeah.
Done in the right way. So it was probably the same day or the next day when I recorded 3 videos of their songs and sent them right away to the band. And it didn't take too many days before they already replied that they might be interested. And in the end, I got the gig. And a couple of months later, we were rehearsing for the tour that was coming up the same autumn. And we did quite a few shows actually during that year and the next one. Played a long European tour and American tour and some other stuff. And then Paradise Lost was pretty much in the same situation in the summer of 2015. And as Adrian was playing with Paradise Lost as well, it became clear that he couldn't do the next tour that was coming up because At the Gates had just released a new album and it had done really well. So they kept getting more and more offers. to play shows and tour everywhere. So yeah, he just couldn't commit to PL anymore. So Greg just asked me if I fancied doing some PL shows as well, and of course I didn't have to even think about it.
When he asked you that initially, did he already know that you're a big fan? Like, had the conversations come up beforehand? How was that?
Yeah. Already when I was in Valenfire, he probably knew that I was a big PL fan.
Yeah, because like we were saying, it's one of those what's that movie where like the guy is so into the band that he joins them at the end. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Chat, you have to remind me. There's this American movie where the guy's like super into it and he manifests it basically. Like it's just like he's played the cover so many times that he becomes a rock star. That's the one. Rockstar. Thank you, Trent Crusher. And the train. Yeah, Rockstar, where the guy like basically becomes better at his craft because he learned playing the band's songs and he just kind of manifested into becoming the next singer of the band. Did it feel like that at the time? Like after all these years, basically I remember seeing that you guys toured the States for the 30th anniversary of the band.
True.
Older than you. You know what I mean? Like
exactly. Yeah,
so how were the emotions at that point? Getting to that level of saying, all right, I'm actually the drummer of this band.
It just felt unreal. I remember the first time we were rehearsing in the UK, and we played some of the old hit songs like As I Die and Hallowed Land. And I just remember thinking like, what's going on? Like, is this actually happening?
Yeah.
And back then I wasn't supposed to join as a permanent member. I was only supposed to fill in for the upcoming tour. And I thought Adrian was coming back. But in the end, I joined as a permanent member like maybe a year later. And that was also a moment like when I realized I'm actually in this band. And I thought like, wow, this is pretty fucking cool.
We have a question in the question box that I think is very interesting. How bad was the stage fright when you stepped on stage for the first time with the band?
Not too bad actually, because I was pretty well prepared, and we had rehearsed the set many times, so I was pretty confident, and I was never that much of a stage fright guy. Of course, you get nervous, but I think in a healthy way, more than in a scary way.
Yeah, I someone said it to me once, and I never forgot it. They say that nerves before stage, there's a big difference between care and worry. And it just made sense to me. Like nervous because you care versus nervous like, fuck, I'm worried. And once you separate those two, you'll embrace and start to kind of almost get like addicted to the caring about performing versus like this worried, sweaty, I'm nervous kind of energy that most people consider nerves.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you might get worried if there's something that might go wrong, like gear-wise. Is this gonna last for the whole show or whatever? Then you might get a little bit worried or scared. But when it comes to the actual show and performing, it's just like you said. It's just about caring.
Yeah, I love that. I forgot who told me. I wish I remember, because it actually changed the way I like approach going on stage. It was very early on when I first started, and someone said it, and I was like, that makes complete sense. Care and worry, but it just completely changed everything.
Yeah, it really does.
This is like we were talking about. It opened a whole lot more doors. Oh, Bloodstock Festival, what's going on? Welcome to the chat, my friends. Good to see you here. Bloodstockfest in the chat, you guys. Things like Bloodbath. Jumping on stage with a band like Bloodbath happened, and even more and more. What were the conversations and stuff happening? Or was it I'm just rolling with the punches, or were there like, I'm gonna try and get this?
You mean with Bloodbath?
With Bloodbath, yeah.
It was actually on the last American tour we did with PL. It was one morning. We were having some morning coffee in the bus, and Nick just randomly asked me, like, Axe can't do the upcoming tour because he's busy with Opeth. I think they were recording, or it was on tour with Opeth or something. And my jaw just dropped, like, what? Are you serious? And it was, I don't want to repeat myself, but Bloodbath really is one of the most important things that ever happened to me, because I mean, Catatonia is my all-time favorite band, and for those who don't know, the same guys, Anders and Jonas, are the main guys in Bloodbath as well. And ever since I got into Catatonia, I pretty much found Bloodbath around the same time, and they've also been one of my all-time favorite bands. So it was truly like a dream come true to get the gig for them, to get to play with them. It must have been.
We have a question actually from one of our patrons, which I'll tie into this, because it must have been a crazy spectrum. It's not just one of those things where, I've been playing, a certain style. I've been playing death metal for 10 years, and that's what I do. I'm the death metal guy. There's a lot of dynamics in terms of jumping from one band to the next, and the different styles that you play aren't necessarily tied together outside of it being an actual drum set at this point.
Yeah, that's very true. It's of course it's always a challenge to adapt into the new style, especially if you have many gigs in a short period of time with different bands. It's not always easy to adapt into the situation, but I just try my best to deliver every time, and seems to have worked all right. Yeah.
So this is our one of our patrons, Badass, that is from the UK, called Craggers. He says, as the drummer of two of my favorite bands, Paradise Lost and Bloodbath, which style of playing do you prefer? The brutal style of Bloodbath or the gothic metal style of Paradise Lost?
Both. I mean, they're so different to each other that it's kind of hard to even compare them. It's like a different world. With PL, for example, most of the songs are played onto a click, and with Bloodbath, there's no click. It's just, it's just death metal, and with a really, really aggressive punk almost attitude.
Yeah,
and I absolutely love playing with both of them, so it's possible to answer that, really.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of the spark that happens. That's why everyone we have a bunch more questions about the different styles. Everyone's very curious about the different styles, because it's one of those things that you don't see very often. There are a lot of people that specifically even in drums, maybe a little more, where you see them session and tour and do a bunch of things, but a lot of people have that one kind of sound, and a lot of people are curious about just the number of things that you've been able to do. let's see a couple more questions. What's happening in the Abhorrence camp? This is from Jilla the Metal Maniac.
We actually got together last summer, a few months ago, and we tried out some new stuff. We're planning to record something new. I don't know when, probably not this year, but maybe next year. I'm not sure if it's going to be an EP again or a full-length album this time, but yeah, the plan is definitely to come up with something new, and I think the guys have a lot of riffs and ideas already, so stay tuned. There's something definitely coming up.
There's something, and like I said, guys, if you exclamation point and guest in the chat, you get the link to the Instagram, to Waltteri's Instagram, and hit follow. You'll get all the announcements real time. That's the platform you use the most, right?
Yeah, true. I use Facebook as well. I mean, my artist page, but I tend to usually just share the stuff that I put on Instagram. Yeah,
because we have another question here, and this is something that I want to tie into another subject afterwards. But Dana Stark 1025 is asking, I'm new to Twitch. Obviously, do you have an account and do you stream, Walt?
I was just saying before we went live that I'm so out of this whole streaming thing.
It's a whole new world, yeah.
yeah, it's a completely new world. I'm very eager to learn more about it, but no, I'm not streaming anywhere as of now. But maybe in the future.
Hopefully, man. If you ever do, you know exactly who to go to. And I want to tie this into the next thing, because there's a lot of aspiring musicians that listen to the show. There's a lot of bands from the Middle East that tune in. There's a whole bunch of like artists and creatives that tune into the show, and we always talk about this like balance between honing your craft and what you have to do on social media to like reach your audience. Has there in your time ever been a point where you're like, either I need to double down on the social media or fuck social media? What's your approach with this? Because like you said, you focused on, you have an Instagram, people can hit you up, they can follow you. You have Facebook, people can hit you up, but you're not necessarily, spreading yourself too thin when it comes to social media. Is there an approach to that, or is it just, this is what I know, this is what I'm going to do?
It's funny you should ask about that, because how I approach my social media is that I just put stuff there that I feel like posting. I never plan too much in advance or think about like, oh, I have to do this many posts a week and they have to be about this and that. And usually I just post stuff that I find interesting, like if we're having a show and if I've got some cool photos from there or some drum cam videos or stuff like that. If I'm trolling around the world, I usually post stuff like that. But if I'm at home just sitting on a couch and watching TV, who's gonna find that interesting? Like, what's the point?
You'll be surprised.
Or any stuff like that. I just want to keep it interesting for myself as well. And I might have some periods when I don't post at all, but that's just because there's not that much to post about it. So
yeah, it's been really interesting seeing the different approaches that have happened, especially because of the pandemic, and where all the musicians went, fuck, we don't have a stage. What are we going to do? Some approached it, like you said, where it's just like, if there's something cool, I'll post it, or I'll just post old footage or whatever. Others went the complete extreme other way, where they're like, we have a content calendar. I'm getting on all the different platforms. and there's logos involved, there's transitions, there's a whole bunch of things, and both camps, for especially if you guys are aspiring musicians and like looking for this approach, I don't think there's a right way to do it. I definitely think that you should be on social media in any way, like even if it's just an Instagram account, just so people can find a way to connect with you, because in this day and age, people do want to connect. But I don't think there's a right way to do it. What do you think? What are your thoughts on it? There is no extreme way to do it, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. It's a very helpful tool. The whole social media thing nowadays, and with bands and businesses, I totally get the content calendar approach as well. But when and this is completely my opinion, but when I'm following some musicians or bands, I find way more interesting the stuff that feels more personal and not just some ads or something that some social media team has put up instead of the band themselves.
Yeah. I've been on both sides of that coin, because I did a lot of work as a content creator, but for other people. So not necessarily for me, where I had to work for like influencers and stuff, where they posted branded content and stuff. And then as soon as I see, as a metalhead, like I had to do that for a living. And then as a metalhead, when I see a band I love do something similar, I'm like, oh no, I get it. You gotta get paid, but no, don't put the Red Bull can on the stage. It's just one of those things. But I always love that approach. Bloodstock Festival says, not a question. I just said that Walt was restricted from playing with PL at Bloodstock this year. We hope he can come back with one of his bands soon.
Oh, I hope to come back soon as well. I was really, really bummed about not making to Bloodstock this year, because I was due to the travel restrictions, because I only got my second vaccine shot on the week that Bloodstock was held, and and they have the time after that, right? Yeah, you would have had to have it like 14 days before you could travel to the UK without the quarantine. So sadly, I had to miss it.
Let's talk a little bit about the big the big elephant in the room that has changed all of our lives in the last year and a half. But how was it over the last year and a half? A touring musician, you, like we said, you've been doing it your entire life. Basically everything you've known is being on the road, being touring and studio stuff. And then someone said, "Hey, can't see anyone, can't go on the road, can't do anything right now." How was that initial first shock for you?
It was fucking shit. I don't know how to put it in any other way, really. I mean, when it all started, of course, no one knew what to expect, and
we all had we're locked down for a month kind of approach.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was going to be a few weeks, a month at maximum, but then when you realized all the summer festivals started to cancel, then you thought like, oh fuck, this is actually going to last a bit longer. It's been tough. It's been very frustrating and depressing for all the touring musicians and everybody in the industry.
Yeah.
But let's hope we're already on the better side, and there's some kind of normality in the horizon again.
Yeah, I hope so. And I mean, we actually, our first contact with Bloodstock Fest was just earlier before they put on the show. We had a conversation with Squatter from Bloodstock and about everything that they've been doing online and everything that they've started to approach gearing up for for the festival to open up after, you know, a year and a half, after 2 years of missing it. It's pretty crazy when you think about like the touring music, that entire industry. Like there's a bunch of other industries that got shut down, but that entire industry is based on human interaction.
Yeah.
It blew my, like, what, you don't think about it, right? We're at a festival, there's 20,000 people. We went to festival our whole life. You're at a festival, you're watching a band play. And then when you think why it's banned, it's literally human interaction. That's all we do for a living, human interaction.
Yeah, and there's so many different people involved building one festival. Like, it's not just the promoters and the organizers or the bands or the crew. There's so many different things like attached to it, and I don't think so-called normal people actually even realize it.
Yeah. The other day we were having a conversation. I completely forgot who it was with, but they said something along the lines of people don't even realize that even a small touring band doing bar shows, the local stagehand that you know gets that freelance gig to do stage and sound or something just for that one bar, for that one town, is now out of a job. Like everyone's affected. It's kind of crazy to think of.
Yeah, it's just horrible. Very sad.
Yeah. We have a few more questions in the question queue. Dana Starks is asking, do you have a favorite song from Great Cold Distance?
Well, to be honest, that album is probably my all-time favorite album of, like, I don't know, by any band in the world. So that album is like a straight 10 out of 10 for me, the whole record. But I would say maybe Journey Through Pressure, the last one on the album.
Nice. We have Misanthrope says, not a question. I found this live stream from a suggested live to watch and recognize Waltteri. Also watching from Helsinki, Finland. Cheers. Thank you for being here.
Oh, cool.
We had a bunch of questions in the question queue about Bodom After Midnight. I'm gonna kind of lump them all together. Let's talk about that entire experience with that band and how it was for you.
It was a very interesting year. I'm very proud of the time we got to have with the band, and the EP that we made together, and those 3 shows we did almost like exactly a year ago now, I think.
Yeah.
But also, like, without COVID, it would have been such a different year. So it's a very bittersweet feeling when I think about it, like afterwards, the whole thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, it was a fun thing to do. There was some challenges. It wasn't the easiest year, definitely not. But yeah, I will always be proud of that time and everything we did together. So
it's proud is I gotta say an understatement. Like, just looking at the list of the stuff that you've achieved and looking at the bands that you played in, most of which, like we said earlier, are physically older than you. You know what I mean? Like, the bands that you grew up listening to, you've been a part of, achieved so many great moments. Got to tour with a bunch of bands, and Paradise Lost are now, you guys are gearing up finally to hit the road again.
Slowly, yeah. We've got a Damnation Festival coming up in 3 or 4 weeks, where we will be playing the Gothic album in its entirety, because it's 30 years anniversary for the album.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to that, and next year is going to be pretty busy for us because everything has been moved from 2020 and 2021 to next year. So there's going to be a lot of shows around the world, and let's hope there will be no more cancellations.
Yeah,
but it looks pretty good.
It's been an emotional roller coaster for a lot of people that have been waiting for festival. They get canceled and then they come back for a second and then they're like, oh no, travel restrictions again. It's been it's been more drama than we're used to.
Yeah, I think that's the worst part actually. Like you might start to have a little bit of hope, like, oh, maybe this is gonna happen, and then you see the announcement, oh, it's postponed till next year. Like, I don't know, for visitors and fans to go to festivals and gigs, it's also really difficult because they don't know what to expect. Like they've held a ticket for festival or gig for 2 years. Yeah. And there's been like probably usually like 5 or 6 times when it's been cancelled. So I don't know, it's a really weird one. Like well, for example, when we did the last show with PL, the first one for me this year in Poland a few weeks ago, I didn't actually believe the show was going to happen until I was walking on the stage when the intro was playing. Yeah. You start to become so skeptic about things like, no, it's probably gonna get cancelled again.
Yeah, and I always tell everyone, if there was ever a time to support your favorite bands, to buy merch, to buy a ticket to a festival or a show, to do anything in terms of propping up some of your favorite bands, now is the time, because everything was put on hold, including the income for a lot of bands, and this is the way you can keep them going, because you know the bigger bands get to stay afloat. A lot of the smaller bands had to call it quits.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of sad that I think there's going to be a huge demand for crew people as well, because a lot of people had to get like a real job in the meantime. Yeah. And now that they have real jobs, why would they come back to this industry when it's still like very, very unstable, and you don't know when things are going to go back to like completely normal. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's the issue, I think.
Yeah. So guys, if we're going to be winding down in just a second. If you have any more questions, drop them in the question box. We're going to be asking everything you guys have. This podcast will also be available on YouTube for the video, and on all the podcast platforms on Sunday. And if you want to get it early, if you're tuning in, if you bounce in and out, if you want to get it early, it'll be up tonight on Patreon. So all the patrons get it right away, right after the show ends. And we do theme streams on Mondays where we pick a theme, you know, either 2 bands or a genre or something, and we dive deep into it. On Wednesdays, we have the podcast like today. And on Saturdays, we do a scream stream where I scream some of my band stuff and do covers and your requests. The other day I had to do Barbie Girl, Waltteri. It's just one of those things that happens. I had to scream Barbie Girl. Thanks to the Twitch community.
How did that work out?
It didn't. It didn't. That's the whole point. Yeah. Yeah, we sometimes scream. Sometimes I don't scream. Sometimes we just we open up the link dump as the guys are saying in the chat. But we wind down with this question. I have to get into position here. This is a question that's going to be a little difficult because you started so young. You guys, I'm going to even zoom in. Let's kill the background music for a second. This is the question we end with. if you had a time machine and you were to go back in time before everything popped off for the first, tour before, what was it, Nordic Eclipse? Before Nordic Eclipse started trying to demo, and you were to meet your younger self and say one thing, what would that thing be?
Would probably be like, don't stress too much, or just like don't worry about it too much. It will all turn out all right in the end.
Has that been something that you feel has been part of your journey? Has there been moments where it has been stressful, or because I'm anxiety fucking ridden, and I completely get like the nervous energy. That's where that quote comes from, because I'm just a nervous wreck. But has that been something that you faced?
Yeah, definitely. Throughout my life, I've been stressing way too much about things, and in the end, like, what's the point? It will always turn out okay in the end, or not. Yeah. What's the point stressing about it? Like,
exactly. Care, don't worry. You guys, yeah. I need to get that tattooed on me. And credit to whoever said it, but I need to find whoever said that to me and figure out a way to tattoo it. Gigi Arabia saying good luck, Waltteri. Sorry, I said Waltteri. Sleeping tonight after that zoom in. Hey, you guys, it wasn't that bad, was it? Well, thank you so much for your time, my dude. It's been an absolute pleasure. I have one last question. We always end I like to bring things back to the Middle East, just as a general question. Have you checked out any Middle Eastern bands? Have you heard of the Middle Eastern metal scene in general? What were things like before Jabir and coming down here?
I don't really know any Middle Eastern bands, but there was some local supports when we played Dubai.
Yeah.
And I thought they were really good. And I have to say, the whole experience when we came down 4 years ago, it was absolutely amazing. It's still, and I'm not just saying this, but I actually mean it, but it's still one of the most memorable PL shows I played.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just so, everything worked really well. The hospitality and the gig itself, we felt like really welcome. And the show was absolutely amazing. And I'd love to come back someday.
I'll take a second to give Jabir a massive shout out. JoScene, for those that don't know, JoScene Events puts on I don't even want to say puts on fights to put on metal shows in the UAE, in Dubai, and in a weird way for the Middle East, because this is the only place that really has that potential of putting on shows. So a lot of people fly in. I remember at the Paradise Lost gig, there were people from Syria, there were people from Jordan that flew in to watch the show. And massive shout out to Jabir and JoScene. If you guys don't already, go hit them up on Instagram. We'll post them on Discord as well. Show some love. It means the world. And if there is a show, like we said, buy a ticket, buy a t-shirt, support your local, support your favorite bands. It goes a long way.
Yeah, exactly.
We to officially end the podcast, Waltteri, we have a tradition around here where I'll say bye to the chat, and then I'll cut to you, and then you say whatever you want, and the moment you say the words hit the outro, the episode officially ends. So chat, before I go, thank you so much for being around. Each and every single one of you guys that was here. I saw a couple of subscriptions. Chimera Mark Hunter from the band Chimera gave out a community sub. Fawaz resubscribed. Everybody that hit likes, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. Credence, thank you for the clap, my friend. Junior, when the world burns, thank you. I appreciate you. I'll see you guys on Saturday. I'll hand it over to Waltteri.
Thank you very much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. And thanks for the support. And really hope to see all of you next year somewhere around the world. And take care. Stay safe. Cheers.
You got to say the words, hit the outro.
What?
You have to say, hit the outro. That's the official ending.
Outro.